Question 18, it says a table shows the running times of some films. Draw a cumulative frequency graph on the grid opposite to represent the data. So from this table, this shows us that 0 films last between 0 and 80 minutes, 9 films last between 80 and 100 minutes, 35 films last between 100 and 120 minutes, and so on. They've given us this extra column here to use for cumulative frequency. Sometimes they don't do that in the exam, so you're expected just to do this yourself, so I normally just write it along the side here. Cumulative frequency means the running total of the frequencies. So the first one is we start off with 0, then we've got 0 plus 9, which is 9, then we've got 0 plus 9 plus 35, so really we just need to do the last one, add on the 35, that's going to give me 44. 44 add on the 30, which gives me 74. 74 add on the 18, well that's nearly 20, so 74 add 20 makes 94, so adding on 18 would give me 92, and 92 add 8 is 100. Now as this is a calculator paper, I am just going to double check this because I don't want to be throwing away marks. So I've got 9 add 35, add 30, add 18, add 8, that makes 100, that's my total down here. And we should notice that the total frequency is the same as the final number in the cumulative frequency. So if it's not, then you've gone wrong. We're now asked to draw the graph, and what you need to remember is that you're plotting the end point against the cumulative frequency that you've just worked out. So we don't want to plot the midpoint. Some students think you need to plot the midpoint, but actually if you think about it, say we looked at this row here. If we plotted the midpoint, 130 against 74, what you're saying then is 74 bits of data are 130 or less. But actually, in this interval, it goes up to 140. So there could be some films that are longer than 130 that you'll be missing out if you only plotted the midpoint. So that's why we have to plot the end point against the cumulative frequency. So for the first one, I've got a cumulative frequency of 0 and my end point is 80. So on my grid, I'm going to go along at 80 and up to 0. Notice on the vertical axis here, we've got 5 little squares and it's going up in tens, therefore every little square is going up in twos. So you need to notice that. Also, when you're plotting your points, do a cross, or this isn't the best cross, it's a bit fat. So try and do a cross rather than like a sort of circular dot, so it's a bit more precise. The next one is 109. So 109. So again, each square is going up in twos. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 is here. Be really precise. 120 and 44. So 44 is going to be 2 squares up from there. My next one is 140 and 74. My next point is 160 and 92. And then my last point was 180 and 100. Okay, now I need to join this up. We shouldn't use a ruler. Okay, it should be a nice smooth curve. So you need to do this freehand. Some students really struggle with this. What I suggest you do is put your pen or your pencil. You should really use pencil for this. I'm using a pen because I'm doing the camera. Put your pen on here, and when you're drawing it up, focus your eyes on the next point. So don't look at your pen when you're drawing. Look at the next point, and that will help guide your hand to join this up nicely. So as soon as the pen gets to that point, I will then immediately focus my eyes on the next point, as that will help me angle it correctly. It does take a bit of practice. I'm now looking at my next point, the one further up, not looking at my pen. Okay, done a little bit wrong here, gone a little bit steep. but with a bit of practice it should look fairly smooth. And then it then says estimate the number of these films with a running time of less than 2.5 hours. So notice that we are got minutes. Okay, we know that there are 60 minutes in an hour, so we should spot that this is 150 minutes. If you're not good at that, think 2.5 or 2.5 multiplied by 60 is 150, so that's 150 minutes. And we're going to read up 150. Now remember, if that's between these two, we want it in between those squares because that is 150. 150 is between 140 and 160. And with a ruler, you need to make sure that this is done properly and that the line is very nice and very straight, going in between those squares. I'm going to draw a line on this, like that. When I was marking this, some people had lines like this, so it's really not very accurate at all. So you're going to go right up in the centre. Do take pride in your work. And then I'm going to read across here. And this value is 82. Remember, each square on the vertical axis was 2. Just think about this. 82 people are less than, or sorry, not 82 people, 82 films were 150 minutes or less. Okay, quite a common question is to actually say estimate the number of films with a running time of more than 2.5 hours. So if it said that, you would then need to work out the difference here. So that would be 18. 18 films are more than 150 minutes long. But we want less than, so we're going to say it's 82. If you look at the mark scheme for this question, we can see that a fully correct diagram using the UCB, so the upper class boundary, so that is these things here, look, 100, 120, 140. So you've done that properly, you get 3 marks. They've given the examiner's coordinates to check to make sure that the students have done that right. Now these are the things that you can do wrong and get marks for. So it says ignore 80. So if you didn't plot that bit on, if you didn't do this first line there, if your graph started at this point and all the points were correct, then you can get the 3 marks. It says ignore anything after the last point. So if I was to continue this line on for some reason, again the examiner just ignores that bit, so you can still get the marks. Now if you make one error, you go down to 2 marks. So one error could be things like constantly plotting at the mid-class interval, so plotting the midpoints instead of the endpoints. That gives you 2 marks instead of 3. Or consistently plotting at the lower bounds. So if you plotted these numbers instead, you get 2 marks. If you made an error on your cumulative frequency values, so for example, your values went up to 101, or if you look here, we've got an error, they've put 75 instead of 74, then again you lose 1 mark. If you didn't join the points, you lose 1 mark. And just for 1 mark, if you got these values correct in your table and none of your graph was correct, then you just get 1 mark. Or if you had a bar chart, I saw some people do a bar chart with the correct heights, with no line, so no smooth curve, then you're going to get 1 mark.